My name is Ananya Singh, and it's my privilege and honor to welcome the chairperson for the session, Dr. Partha Pratim Medhi. He is the panel advocate, Government of Assam, Guwahati High Court. And sir, we are highly obliged to have you on board with us. So before starting with the session, there are some basic rules that I would like to highlight. The paper presenters are requested to complete the presentation within the time allotted, that is 15 minutes only. Others are requested to raise hand or put down the question in the chat box, if any. So you can now have your time, sir. Thank you.
So our session is the session that has been allotted to me is environment and emerging environmental issues and challenges. So I would request the first speaker. Actually, I don't have the list. Just I have got Dr. Nabarun Purkastha and Alisha Marbarani. So I would request both the speakers to speak on that topic of the paper. The topic of their paper is Unitarian movement responses to environmental ethics. So therefore, I request Dr. Nabarun Purkayastha and Alisha Marba Rani, if they are present, to kindly come forward and give the presentation.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, resource persons and everyone present here. I would like to share my PowerPoint presentation, sir.
Okay.
So my title of the paper is Unitarian Movement Responses to Environmental Ethics, which I'm presenting here right now along with my guide, Dr. Nabarun Purkayastha. So in the last few decades, there has been various awareness of environmental problems, which has been increasing, and religion and environmentalism has emerged as a subfield in the discipline of sociology of religion. Religion, being a primary source of values in any culture, are conveyed in decisions regarding environment. So Unitarianism is a social religious movement here in Northeast India, and this has become more deeply involved in environmental work. So this paper is a reflection on how Unitarianism as a movement and as a religion has addressed religious commitment towards the environment. So the man is like any other organism, but like other living organisms, man is unique. The interaction of man with his creator has impacted in many diverse ways with his activities and environment in the planet. To appreciate special nature of man, his interactions with environment, we need to know about man and his environment. We also need to know about movements which has evolved in the planet Earth. And through a clear understanding of man, environment, and social movements, which are the keywords in the title of this paper, we will then be in a position to understand how to shape the course of happenings within the environment. So there is no better way in understanding this title of the paper than to first start with the word environment. This has to be so because the environment outrank man in the planet Earth. And environment has become a major issue in the world as a result of its importance as a major factor, not only in development of nations, but also in the issue of sustainability. So important is environment that Adelegan quoted a renowned Nigerian economist, Pius Okigbo, saying that nations aspiring for outstanding success in the 21st century must intensely effort in deploying the valuable tools of knowledge to explore the potentials of their natural environment in order to create the wealth that they will need in the new century. Here in the Northeast, the people are claimed to be very religious. So therefore, there's a need for all believers of the diverse religions and all people who ply their trade in religion to have an in-depth knowledge of what environment is. In particular, people should understand their importance and the way they interact through such interactions influences of what goes on in each of them. And so this is what precisely this paper aims to achieve. And now I would like to give just a few introduction about what this Unitarian movement really is. Here, the Khasis are an indigenous ethnic group in Meghalaya who practice an indigenous tribal religion before the advent of Christianity. They are a matrilineal society and the children take surname from that of a mother, forming a clan under that name from the first mother down the generations. One must not be confused regarding the nature of matrilineal in the Khasis. Inheritance is passed down through the female line and property is acquired by a man which belongs to his mother. They have, however, a patriarchal system which is mostly seen in all over the societies of the world. Men and women are considered equal, but they have different parts to play. The Khasi society during the 19th century perceived that their social and cultural elements were lost with the coming of Christianity. So it was therefore felt that there was a need to maintain their own identity. So the Khasi elders at that time launched a resistance movement. The Khasi Christians have also in some way asserted themselves in the sense that they wanted to retain the new religion and also keeping pride in their Khasi culture by retaining their Khasi identity. So the Unitarian movement, centered around an individual, Hajam Kishore Singh Nongbri, was locally born and founded in 1887. The founder, Hajam Kishore Singh Nongbri, had then converted to the Welsh Calvinistic Church, and later he began to question the rigid teachings of this church. So he began this liberal movement called Kanyam Mani Weblai, or the religion which worships one God, on 18 September 1887, and this was how the movement had started. Now, regarding Unitarian movement responses to the environment. Respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are part of is the seventh principle of the Unitarian movement. The Unitarianism is a liberal religious movement with significance present not just here in Northeast India but all over the world. Ecological views were present in 1994 publications of the Unitarians, which the title was Unitarian Views of Earth and Nature. It had presented a personal reflection of 6 Unitarians about the relation to the natural world. The president of the movement had rightly said that environmental sustainability should be the basis for economic and social policy. Ecology and environmental concerns has since played a key role in the teachings of Unitarianism. Over the past 10 years, Unitarians have issued a number of comments and resolutions, which some of were awareness, humanity, environmental degradation. They also support equality of respect and opportunity for everyone and oppose all oppression and discrimination on the grounds of race, gender, or religious belief. They place the concern on life in this world. The Unitarian movement, although it took place to change societal norms, however, it has now taken up an initiative of creating awareness and taking part in various activities in order to preserve and protect the environment. One such case can be seen during the cleaning drive, which took place in many phases in around the Shillong city. The cleaning phase started in Shillong, which believe in creating awareness about the evils of single-use plastics, which have clogged up our drains. The operation for cleaning was organized into different phases. The first phase was organized at Kalyar, and the second phase was also done in Police Bazaar area. There were around 300 volunteers in these two phases. Another cleanup was also held in the river Umyo, which provides drinking water to the entire population of Shillong. Volunteers were able to pick up loads of garbage from the river. Such measures has helped a lot in having a cleaner and greener environment. So also on every 5th June, which the world regards as World Environment Day, the Unitarians will take up resolutions such as uh, cleaning the environment or plantation of trees every year on this day. The Unitarian movement has passed also a resolution that human activities inflict irreversible damages on the environment. If not checked properly, many of our current practice put a serious risk on what we wish for the human society. So fundamental change are very important. It must also be emphasized here that the Unitarian movement has a role to play in the diverse environments. These challenges include the ecological challenges as well as social challenges. The ecological challenges includes issues such as climate change and the challenges of greenhouse effects, ozone layer depletion, and global warming. The social challenges are those challenges that are arising among the people of developing nations of the world that are compounding the other group of challenges earlier discussed under the ecological challenges. They are challenges that border on poor leadership and bad governance, poverty, political corruption, and greed. It is these challenges that are reflected in the poor attitude of leaders to issue of the environment and absence of laws that will regulate activities of people in the environment. I would like to conclude by saying that Unitarians regard the maintenance of sustainable, diverse, and beautiful environment, natural and human, as essential for both our survival and our well-being. For now, all one can say is that unless and until our governments in developing countries of the world appreciate the importance of environments and give them an appropriate attention they deserve in policy issues, the sustainability of our natural environment will still be under much pressure from the man-made environments, that is, their environments. This is an area where the religious groups can come in and assist with proper sensitization of their members on these environmental issues with a view to stopping them or at least mitigate their effects. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elisha and Dr. Nabarun. You have the paper was a very uh, uh, was a very enlightened and was a very good paper. We were enlightened with this, and very nicely the speaker has spoken about this Unitarian movement and has given us a brief history about starting from 1887, the written history, and specifically the relation between the indigenous people and religion and the environment, how these are interrelated. So it was a very interactive, it was a very enlightening paper. And I would just like to add here that from Art Summit, that is in 1992, when the Art Summit came, the conventional biological diversity was there, and there also about the sustainable development and the concept of access and benefit sharing also came. So thank you so much. Now I will like to request our other speaker, Dr. Nobaron, you would like to say something?
No, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So now I would like to request our the next speaker, that is Hafizul Sheikh, Mr. Hafizul Sheikh, and his paper is COVID-19 Pandemic, a Blessing from Nature and Environment. So if he's present,
Yes,
I
sir.
would request him to start with his presentation.
Hello, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible. You can kindly, you can, you can start your video. You're audible. You're
Sir,
very much audible.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Good afternoon from my side
Good
to all of
afternoon.
you. So, the title speaks. Perhaps I am maybe among the few people who have turned a U-turn that blessings of COVID-19. Although I was also a victim of this very infectious disease some 2 years before, when it was considered a threat. Taking into account the U-turn, let me tell you, sir, that this paper is divided into three parts. First, an introduction. So then I have just reviewed literature, some important research papers. Then I will definitely go to the conclusion.
Okay.
Most policymakers and investors throughout the world wrongly assumed that this pandemic would have only a brief, limited, China-specific impact. But now, as an established fact, they realize that it is generating a global shock and economic disruption that has an enduring impact, or even a nail in the coffin for the current era of globalization. Throughout the world, suddenly interconnectedness of goods, services, capital, and people stopped. The first visible sign which US consumers observed came when virus shuttered factories in China, prompted delays in Apple's delivery. The world realized that because of so advancement and global connectivity, the impairment developments can more affect the people globally than advantages. Dominated by the pandemic, governments across the globe are confronting a health crisis, an economic crisis, and a crisis of institutional legitimacy. The pandemic has changed the world and ushered in a new era. What it has done is intensify and expedite underlying trends that made the world confront a new reality. Sir, as of yesterday, 11th of February 2022, as per WHO COVID-19 dashboard, COVID-19 has made a global catastrophic situation that caused 57,83,076 deaths out of 404,910,528 confirmed cases, about 40 crore, more than 40 crore cases. While the COVID-19 pandemic continues to ravage both the health and economy of nations around the world, we are also contending with one greatest crisis in human history, that is global environmental change. The change is mainly due to human behaviors and is a major threat to over half of the world's population. Unfortunately, the world's poorest countries, those with the least responsibility for producing environmental decay, are the most affected. If the human population continues to contribute to climate change, rising global temperatures and more natural disasters will plague the world. We would likely encounter more flooding and more droughts with rising sea levels and higher temperatures. Climate scientists have estimated that the Arctic Ocean will be free of ice by the summer of 2050. As the ice melts, ancient viruses and bacteria from the frost soils that are potentially harmful to human beings may be released. This could cause more outbreaks of infectious disease in addition to the disease's zoonotic origin that we are already experiencing. To date, there have been several studies regarding the environmental impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Dieter Helm, a professor of energy policy at the University of Oxford, in an article, The Environmental Impacts of the Coronavirus, presented a comprehensive research agenda from the environmental and economics perspective with 5 sets of research questions, including the short-term effects, the longer-term economic effects, and some of their potential environmental effects, deglobalization, trade and environmental effects, environmental aspects of intergenerational equality, the balance sheet approach and natural capital, and the permanent effects on behavioral shifts. Another article by Muhammad Hassan Shakil, who is associated with School of Business Administration, East Delta University, titled COVID-19 and the Environment, a critical review and research agenda, provided 4 underlying research cultures based on a systematic content analysis of the studies, namely COVID-19 and environmental degradation, COVID-19 and air pollution, COVID-19 and climate or meteorological influences, and COVID-19 and temperature. In a similar research paper by Alessandro Lewis, who is associated with University of Gothenburg, Environment for Development, titled Air Pollution Exposure and COVID-19, a look at mortality in Mexico City using individual level data, provided an insight on air pollution exposure from COVID-19 pandemic. There was also a review of Saida Sadat, PhD student at National Forensic Science University, Ahmedabad. Now, even though the outbreak has adversely altered the everyday lives of millions of people around the world since its onset, there have also been some benefits. With a non-normative approach, this paper considers unexpected positive aspects of the COVID-19 pandemic on environment. For instance, the lockdown has decreased the electricity demand by 30% in Italy, India, Germany, and USA, and by 12 to 20% in France, Germany, Spain, India, and the UK. Additionally, the expenditure of the fuel supply has been decreased by 4% in 2020 as compared to the previous year 2012 to 2019. In particular, the global demand for coal fuel has been reduced by 8% in March and April 2020 as compared to the same time in 2019. In terms of harmful emissions, the lockdowns reduced the emissions of nitrous oxides by 20 to 30% in China, Italy, France, Spain, and by 77.3% in Brazil. Similarly, the particulate matter level has been reduced from 5 to 15% in Western Europe to 200% in New Delhi, India, which in turn has enhanced the air quality in a never seen manner in recent times. In some places such as New York, USA, carbon dioxide emission was also reduced by 5 to 10%. The water quality in several polluted areas has also been remarkably enhanced. For example, the dissolved oxygen content in Ganga River, India, has increased by about 80%. Traffic congestion has also been reduced worldwide, and in some areas it has been reduced by 50%, such as New York and Angels, USA. Overall, while the COVID-19 pandemic has shrunk the global economy by 13 to 32%, the pandemic has also clearly benefited to other sectors, which must be considered as the spotlight for the permanent revival of the global ecosystem. So let's take few points that air pollutants pose serious health risks. The World Health Organization estimates that 7 million people die from air pollution each year. More than half these deaths being due to ambient in air pollution. So long-standing exposure to fine PM, that is fine particulate matter, is an air pollutant that is a concern for people's health with a diameter lower than 2.5, and O3 is estimated to cause around 8.8 million deaths every year. Exposure to nitrogen oxide alone results in 4 million new pediatric asthma cases annually. A major and immediate positive effect of COVID-19 lockdown has been the substantial reduction in air pollution worldwide. Notably, in major industrialized countries, the closure of factories and transportation networks, the largest greenhouse gases in the United States, resulted in a 5 to 10% decrease in air pollutants, including carbon dioxide. China's heavy industrial zones also showed a 40% reduction in nitrous oxide concentration after the lockdown in Wuhan in 2020. Estimations from some satellite confirmed that during late January and early February 2020, levels of nitrous oxide, a well-known pollutant emitted by road transportation over big cities and industrialized zones in many Asian and European countries, were reduced by as much as 40% in comparison with the similar periods in 2019. Evidence suggests that the COVID-19 outbreak has resulted in global environmental change, which can be attributed to the complete or partial lockdown of cities worldwide. Now, leaving this point, I'm just coming to another point, that the other advantage of nationwide lockdown is the improvement of the water quality in some Indian rivers, which are normally exposed to polluted industrial and human effluents. For example, the river Kaveri had been polluted by wastewater discharged from homes and resorts on the banks of the river. But the lake of tourists has reduced wastewater discharge, keeping the water quality in A category since lockdown. Uh, so there is also that the reduction of noise pollution, that automobile traffic, ships on the sea, aircraft industry, and other human activities are all sources of suspect noise. In order to flatten the contagion curve, the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown created a widespread reduction in human activity, leading to a months-long reduction of up to 50% in seismic noise. This is the longest and most prominent recorded reduction in global anthropogenic seismic noise throughout history. Sir, let me conclude that while the negative impacts from the pandemic cannot be ignored, the COVID-19 crisis has presented an extraordinary situation with substantial environmental gain. The positive impacts on global environmental and planetary health that the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown brought about are noteworthy, even if they will be quickly erased as the world goes from lockdowns to a gradual return to normalcy. Therefore, behavioral change such as adopting a lifestyle that reduces carbon footprint are needed to make a positive impact on the environment. At the same time, observations and knowledge gained of the positive environment impacts of the pandemic should be documented and used to help make comprehensive evidence-based public policies for the survival of mankind. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Hafizullah Sheikh, for a very interesting and forceful presentation. Yes, indeed, the COVID-19 pandemic has hit us very hard, the entire human civilization. But it is also a constant reminder to us that how we have neglected our environment and how we have enforced human-induced pollution. And yes, you have very nicely pointed out how this pandemic situation has helped in the improvement of environment, be it air pollution, water pollution, reduced the components. And yes, it shall always remain. We shall, along with the other aspects, this COVID-19, we will always remember this, as it will always be a constant reminder to us that it is us it is us, the human race, who are responsible for the environment in today's context, and it is us only who can, with a controlled behavior of our entire human race, we can put a check to this environmental issue. So thank you, Mr. Hafizullah Sheikh, for a very nice and forceful presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Now proceeding with our session, I would like to request our next speaker. Our next speaker is Suhas Nahari Todarmal, Mr. Suhas Nahari Todarmal, and he is going to speak about the role of self-government in protecting environment. So if he is present, I would request him to kindly start his presentation.
Yeah. Good afternoon, respected resource persons. Also, thank you for organizer for giving us such wonderful opportunity. My today's research topic is the role of local self-government in protecting environment. So the need of environmental conservation is recognized globally. This paper makes to attempt assess the role of government institution in the protection of environment in India. This paper also discussed the relevant policies and practices promoted by these institutions preserving and protecting environment. At the local government level, that is, there are several mechanisms and agencies through which information regarding public welfare and environment conservation can be communicated to the villagers. This can be used to create much needed awareness about the protection of ecology as well as the environment. This paper also examined how the response to the environment management can be strengthened with a better involvement of an institution and role of this institution in specific context of environment management and protection. As we know that enactment of a 73rd and 74th amendment to the Constitution, it appropriate to deliberate on the barriers of the way forward, shaping up the environmental governance at the local level involving Panchayat Raj institutions. So as we know that the Mahatma Gandhi's vision, that is the Gram Swaraj, as included one of the directive principle of a state policy under Article 40 of Indian Constitution. That is, the state shall take steps to organize village panchayat and know them such power and authority as may be necessary to enable them as a function of unit of a government lesson. So 73rd and 74th Amendment of the Constitutions together will always remember for creating leadership opportunity for millions of men and women at the grassroots level. So we know that that is the environmental dictum, that is the think globally and act locally, can be well applied to the village panchayat. If the village panchayat protect their unreserved forest, there is likelihood a change in the appearance in the rural areas. Increase in forest cover would lead to a successive increase in the ground of water level, water table, availability of drinking water, wildlife, and bird population. Reserve forests are protected by forest department of every state, but unclassified wasteland and unreserved forests are belonging to the panchayat. So, as we know that the Article 48 in the Constitution of India, that is which runs to the state shall endeavor to protect the improve and environment and to safeguard of this forest and wildlife of a country. This amendment also required to all citizens of India to protect and improve natural environment, including forest, lakes, rivers, wildlife, as well as to have compassion for all living creatures. Significantly, this amendment lists urban forestry, protection of environment, and promotion of ecological aspect of functioning urban local bodies. This amendment is very comprehensive. So it is significant to mention here that is the Indian judiciary has been playing a very positive and active role in this regard. The apex court in the country has explained the right to life guaranteed by the constitution include a right to enjoy unpolluted air and water. So as we know that is the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change is implementing National River Conservation Program, subscheme of conservation of natural resources and economic system. That is the national mission that on Himalayan studies under the climate change program. The umbrella scheme on conservation of natural resources and ecosystem through its different sub-scheme formulated the protection of corals, mangroves and biosphere reserve, wetland, lakes conserve the natural resource and this ecosystem in the country. So the scheme of national plan for the conservation of aquatic ecosystem aim at the conservation of all aquatic ecosystem, including lake and wetland in the countries. So we know that the national apportation programs and Green India mission contribute toward the regeneration and degraded forests, their adjoining areas in the country. National River Conservation Program facilitates in the improving water quality of polluted reaches river in preventing pollution loads reaching the rivers through various abatements work. So my recommendation is that is the awareness should be given to people in rural areas about local government. The lead should be taken by the local bodies, encouragement by the state government given to local bodies. Need to create community awareness on cost-effective technologies and bridges the gap between technology and the community. Need to identify local bodies who have produced practices that work in city level as well as local level. Need to encourage cities to prepare annual environmental status report through multi-stakeholder as a consultation processes. Need laws, rules, regulations specific to cities should try to facilitate effective implementation strategy. Participatory mechanism should be structured in a way that gives them legal entity and administrative power. That is my suggestion is that is the pressing requirement for sustainability, that is the sustainable environmental improvement at the community level, the provision of a basic service and the enactment of a livelihood opportunities to bottom up process community organization building. While the above suggestion is meaningful, it needs to be followed up the introduction of new training module and training curriculum locally elected by representative in order to sensitize about them the need of effective environmental management at the community level. Individualization in slum cannot often work regularly because unsanitary conditions in the slums make them sick. They have right to life guaranteed by our constitution. The state and the citizen of a country are duty to bound to ensure individual in slum can enjoy their life. Due to this reason, that advantage individuals have to reach them and help them practice how to lead a good life, a concerned environment. We need a new crop of local governance in rural India, which is turned to idea of protecting government as a part of good local governments. They should be familiar with the new environment practices the world over and should be able to adapt them local situations. So thank you to give me an opportunity. Thank you to all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Suhas Toradmal. It was indeed a very nice presentation. And yes, if we see in our country's context, yes, it was the dream of the father of our nation that in the grassroots level, the local self-rule and the local self-rule should be given utmost importance. This is the backbone of our country, and it should be adopted by other countries of the world also. And yes, for the environment, the grassroots, the the people at the grassroots, they understand the environment. They stay with the environment, they live with the environment, and they know how to protect the environment. So it was a very nice presentation, Mr. Suhas Toradmal. I thank you for this presentation. Now,
Thank you.
moving forward to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Miss Mamta Abrol, and she is going to share her views with us on the topic called climate change related sea level rise and its societal repercussions. So, if Madam, you are present, I will request you to kindly start with your presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So my research topic is climate change related sea level rise and its
Madam, I will
society.
request you, can you please open your this video so that everyone can see you.
Okay. So my research topic is climate change related sea level rise and its societal repercussions. Climate change has a significant impact on sea level rise. The world's attention has been drawn to the high of future sea level rise. Nations in low-lying areas and tiny islands, in particular, are afraid that flooding and coast reduce their land areas, forcing a considerable proportion of their people to move to neighboring countries. As a result, as the effects of climate change become more obvious, this subject has garnered more international attention. These such as tides and waves cause sea level to fluctuate throughout time and space. The height of the height of sea surface average over a period of time such as a month or a year long enough to eliminate oscillations produced by tides and waves is described as mean sea level at a certain location. The global mean sea level has a regional dispersion. Global mean sea level refers to the average sea level throughout all of the world's seas. Global mean sea level, that is GMSL. Because processes that dominate at regional and local scales alter the global mean changes in local mean sea level frequently differ from those in global mean sea level. In this study, we use the term sea level change to refer to the change in mean sea level in a broad sense. Changes in sea level are caused by a variety of factors, not just those connected to climate change. For the past few hundred years, the mean sea level has seen considerable fluctuations owing to the alternating of glacial and interglacial eras. The difference in mean sea level reached nearly 120 meters. Tides, waves, tsunamis are all examples of significantly shorter term variations in sea level. Climate change related sea level change has its own distinct features with a spectrum of variations. Given the potential for severe consequences, scientific studies expected to provide answers to a slew of issues. They contain the following questions like, to what degree did climate change contribute to the growth in global mean sea level in the past? How much will GMSL rise as a result of climate change in the future? How significantly will the effects of predicted sea level rise be? Will it cope up? So move on to the factors side. Factors causing changes in sea level. What causes long-term increases in mean sea level is the next question. To address this topic, we'll look at the numerous elements that influence mean sea level. Changes in the overall volume of seawater as well as movements of the ocean result in changes in the form of ocean. Winds, atmospheric pressures, ocean currents, and waves, among other things, play an influence. As a result, there are several variables with varying temporal and geographical scales. First, factors related to changes in volume of seawater contained in water in ocean basin. Thermal expansion, like first is thermal expansion of seawater, growth and decay of land-based glaciers and ice caps, growth decay of ice sheets such as Greenland ice sheet and West Antarctica ice. Factors related to changes in the size and shape of the ocean. Static adjustment of land mass, especially glacial isostatic adjustment. Tectonic movements, including ground subsidence with earthquakes. Ground subsidence uplift due to the compaction of the ground, pumping of the groundwater. The factors causing local and temporal changes in ocean surges and waves. Natural interactions such as the Pacific jacket PEDO. Affecting variations in the amount of seawater in ocean basin. Thermal expansion of seawater and melting of land-based ice are two major variables that influence recent sea level change. Melting and outflow of Greenland and Antarctica are examples of this. Heat is transmitted from the atmosphere to the ocean when the concentration of GHG in the atmosphere causes a rise in the air temperature. The surface mixed layer, where water temperature and density are virtually consistent, owing to intense with wind mixing of surface water absorbs the heat. The heat from the mixed layer is then transferred through the deep layer through the thermocline. Because the ocean is 1,000 times that of the atmosphere, it is estimated that the ocean heat storage accounts for over the 40 years. Now, as coastal impacts. The following are some points most common effects of rising sea levels. These are inundation, flooding of low-lying coastal regions have been worsened. Coastal erosion has risen. Infiltration of saltwater aquifers. Changes in river channel sediment deposition. Consequences for coastal ecosystems such as salt marshes, mangroves, and coral reefs. Higher order effects on the natural environment, human civilization that are of the fundamental impact. Now, we can see from this review that the topic of sea level rise spans a wide variety of fields, from natural science, engineering, life sciences, societal sciences, sorry, and applied sciences to social sciences and humanities. As stated in this paper, progress has been made in each spurred forward by widespread interest throughout the world. On the other hand, increasing scientific understanding and the accuracy of research build effective remedies against the consequences of sea levels rise remains a major. This is an area that desperately required interdisciplinary collaboration in the hope to address human. Thank you to all.
Thank you very much, Ms. Abrol. Indeed, your paper was a very unique paper, I must say, and it is a matter of concern for all of us because yes, we cannot overlook this problem of sea rise. Sea level rise is a very uh, real problem which we are facing, which the future generation of human civilization, human race are going to face. And yes, those areas, those countries which have coastal lines, they will be at the receiving ends. And yes, you have raised a pertinent issue, and the societal repercussions will be far-reaching. So I thank you for this presentation. So now coming to the end of our this session, I will just make a quick recap of what our respective speakers have said. Our first speaker, Dr. Nabarun and Madam Miss Alisha, they emphasized on this environment and religion and Unitarianism, which was a very thoughtful presentation. Then the speaker, our next speaker, he emphasized, Mr. Hafizullah, he emphasized mostly on the effects of COVID-19 on environment. And yes, it is a very important area which has opened our eyes that it is us, the human race, who have neglected the environment. And during this during this time of COVID-19, we have realized that it is us only. With our combined effort, we can check this problem, we can overcome the problem of pollution, be it air pollution, water pollution. And our third speaker, Mr. Toradmal, he had very nicely emphasized on the role of the rule by the self government, and how it can impact the environment. He has very nicely pointed out that by decentralizing more powers to the local authorities, the local bodies, we can work one step further in strengthening, in protecting our environment. And lastly, uh, Madam Abrol, she has very rightly raised the pertinent issue of this sea level rise, which we cannot ignore. And with that, this comes to an end. But before ending, there is one session of question and answer. If from our if anyone has any question to the respective speakers, then they can raise their questions, and I would request the respective speakers to answer the queries that will be raised. If anyone has any question, they can raise their question now. Any questions? So if there is no question, then Umeshwari, we can proceed towards the end of this session.